Rocky Mountain River running through the trees. Daybreak breaking down in Tennessee. Midday sky out in Santa Fe with the sun sinking down over a field of grain. And it's called the land of the brave. The whole world knows our name. One God and 50 states.
Hello, and welcome to the Woke is Broke podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Stanko, and our top story this week, the sensationalism and madness seem to be running rampant in the Del Rio, Texas area, as well as in the media covering it right now, right? Because while grocery stores in Texas are being picked dry, right, while thousands of people are currently living under an overpass in shantytowns, and while a human migration in which 1 in 3 women are raped continues to go on, the media, our social elites, our betters, have decided that none of that is newsworthy. No. None of that is newsworthy. That there's only one newsworthy story out of all of the madness and human suffering going on right now in Texas. And that's this one, this story.
We saw that image of at least one Border Patrol agent using a whip and was effectively trying to lasso some of the migrants.
I was not aware that whips, which come from the slavery era, were part of the package that we issue to any sort of law enforcement or government-sanctioned personnel.
Disturbing new video and images taken at the U.S.-Mexico border that appear to show law enforcement officers on horseback using aggressive tactics to confront migrants.
What they're seeing is despicable, disgusting, cruel. Those are the words that I've been hearing from activists that I've been talking to.
As an image, to me, it does smack of a bygone era of slavery.
Yeah, you probably heard about it, right? White-looking Border Patrol agents whipping Haitian immigrants, right? Right, that's the only story worth telling when it comes to Del Rio right now. And I can't think of a better example of what we're currently seeing play out than this right here.
I'm allergic to bees. If I get stung, I'm gonna seize up and die.
I didn't want to touch you.
Look. See?
Let me tell you.
Help, he's trying to kill me. Help, he's trying to kill me.
Hey, get down.
What you are seeing is a home video taken earlier today showing Los Angeles police officer Hank Rafferty brutally beating an unidentified black male. The police are withholding the name of the victim, but we have obtained this photograph of the man taken after the beating, his face grotesquely bruised and swollen.
You know our society's hit a low point when the media have decided to steal plot points from mediocre comedies from the mid-2000s, right? In that movie, did it matter that that cop wasn't actually beating up that guy? No, he went to jail. And right now, does it matter that those white-looking Border Patrol agents, that a good number of them are Hispanic? No. Does it matter that those Haitian immigrants in the pictures more than likely aren't really from Haiti or aren't immigrating directly from Haiti? No. Does it matter that they aren't actually being whipped, right? Because that's not a whip in that guy's hand. Those are the reins to the horse, right? You don't just tell a horse, turn left, turn right, go forward, go backwards. No, you steer them with the reins. So does it matter that they're not actually being whipped? No. No, all that matters is what it looks like. What it looks like. Not what it actually is, what it looks like. You know, there's a There's an old Paul Newman film called Absence of Malice that basically chronicles the lack of accountability for journalists and really covers the kind of destruction that lazy journalism can have on people's lives. It's a good film. It's with Sally Fields as well. But there's a line that Paul Newman has in this movie that pretty much just sums it all up. He says, if you write in the paper that somebody's guilty, everybody believes you. But if you write that somebody's innocent, nobody cares. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. That's exactly what we're seeing. Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo, Joy Reid, all those idiots that call themselves journalists, getting out there and telling you, me, everyone, the American people, that these guys are guilty, that we need to hang them, that they need to be fired, that they need to be shunned, right? Because what it looks like something bad, and they need to have the book thrown at them, that they are guilty. And then later, when they have to start changing their language a little bit, because it turns out, no, they're not actually holding whips, they're holding the reins to their horses, right? They have to get smart with their words for once. They have to change things around a little bit, and instead they'll say things like, we have photos here of what looks like the Border Patrol agents having a whipping motion. You know, they can't say they're holding an actual whip because they're not. Now they have to change their language up again, right? They're counting on you not caring if these guys are innocent. They're counting on you believing them if they tell you that they're guilty, right? And honestly, it's not surprising that's what they would expect, that's what they hope for you to believe them when they say that they're guilty and for you to not care when they tell you that they're innocent, right? Because that's what's been going on for a very long time. You know, so often we hear talk about the silent majority in America, right? That conservatives out there, that there's this big silent majority taking their fight to the box office, right? Whether that's true or not, I don't know. What I do know is this. When something's important to you, when something's worth fighting for, you aren't quiet about it. If something really matters to you, you're not silent about it. And if you are, then that is a kind of apathy, and that is what we've seen in our country, in our society. An apathy to the truth, an apathy to what's right, an apathy to the real guilty and the real innocent. That's what we've seen. And that's what people like Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo and Joy Reid and all those other morons are counting on. They're counting on you not caring about the truth. And that's what we're seeing in Del Rio right now. Right? We will see the media spin this as being a National Geographic spectacle, right? Right here, tent city, right? And people, oh look, doing their laundry in the river. I mean, I don't do it that way, but I guess they do, right? Right? That this is all just a big humanitarian crisis, not for the people, the U.S. citizens living in Texas, but for the people illegally crossing into our borders right now. They'll tell you it's a National Geographic spectacle, right? Instead of going over the facts that reveal that instead it's a lot more like Freedom Town in the movie Scarface. Right? Because what they're not telling you are stories like this, which come from the Washington Examiner. Haitian migrants that hijack a transport bus in an attempted escape from federal authorities. A large white bus bound for San Antonio, Texas, was overtaken Monday afternoon during the 2.5-hour trip from the International Bridge in Del Rio, Texas. Quote, they did break out of the bus and they did escape, according to a senior federal law enforcement official. Now I know what you're thinking. Thank God it's a white bus, right? Because it being a white bus, you know, bus is probably racist, right? And these illegal immigrants, not illegal immigrants, they're activists, standing up to the systemic racism of motorized vehicles. That's what this is, right? Because words like illegal immigrant, hero, trespassing criminal, inspirational activist, these are all words, really. Words that don't really have any meaning anymore because people who have decided that they don't care about the definition of those words decided that they're just going to use those words willy-nilly, however they feel, regardless if they're applicable to the circumstances of the people that they're talking about. Right? Right? Because when it comes to stuff like this, again, from the Washington Examiner, 2 Haitian migrants bite ICE officers in a deportation flight. Federal assault charges will be brought against 2 Haitian migrants after they bit federal law enforcement officials on board a deportation flight when the plane was taxiing the runway. They bit them. They bit them. And they're heroes for it. Heroes like, I don't know, Lockjaw or Underdog, maybe. This whole thing is insane on its face. And yet we're being preached to by people like Maxine Waters. You might remember her, not as people call her a race baiter. She's not a race baiter. She's just a racist. The great racist Maxine Waters, who you might remember again, went down to the court outside the courthouse during the George Floyd trials and told people that they needed to get more confrontational. She was encouraging people to get violent if they didn't get the prosecution that they were looking for, right? The verdict that they were looking for. People needed to get violent and more confrontational. That Maxine Waters. She had this to say.
I'm unhappy, and I'm not just unhappy with the cowboys who were running down Haitians and using their reins to whip them. I'm happy with the administration. We are following the Trump policy. He is the one that does not follow the Constitution and would not allow those seeking refuge to be able to petition to get into the country. What the hell are we doing here? What we witnessed takes us back hundreds of years. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery. Cowboys with their reins again whipping black people, Haitians, into the water where they're scrambling and falling down when all they're trying to do is escape from violence in their country. Yes, it is unfortunate that it is the poorest country in this hemisphere. It is unfortunate that they have no stable government right now. It is unfortunate that they've had to live through earthquakes. I've been working with Haitians for 30 years. I've been working through 2 coups d'etat. I went to the Central African Republic and I brought back Aristide after he was exiled into the Central African Republic. They have always been between Canada and France and the United States treated worse than anybody else. And so, yes, we are here and we're organized and we're saying to the president and everybody else, you gotta stop this madness. And I want to know, in the first place, who's paying these cowboys to do this work? They've got to be gotten rid of. They've gotten to be stopped. It cannot go on. And so I thank all of you for being here today. Write the story. Tell the story about what is going on. And let people know that they're trying to take us back to slavery days and worse than that. And the children who are unfortunate to be in this situation must be allowed into the United States immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but immediately.
Everything that guy just said is bullshit. Thank you.
No, I'm just gonna say it plainly. If you are actually going to compare border security doing their jobs, which is trying to stop illegal immigrants from crossing over into this country illegally, to slavery, if you're going to make that comparison, then you don't have a freaking clue what discrimination is or what it means to be a victim. None. I don't care what your race is. If you are going to use a false equivalent as egregious as that, you do not have the right to talk about discrimination because you do not know a damn thing about it. I don't care if you're white, if you're black, if you're red, or you're yellow. If that is the comparison that you're making, you don't know what the hell you are talking about, and that is the point. That is the point. Our moral betters in the media, our moral betters in politics have no idea what they are talking about, and yet they are allowed to just funnel this rhetoric of ignorance, of bigotry, of hatred and recrimination for political gain and cheap power tricks over and over and over again. And that is the game that they are playing. And it is a game to them, right? Because when AOC can actually go to the Met Gala wearing a dress saying tax the rich, and then say afterwards, I wasn't talking about taxing people like me, and then proceed to sell merchandise about tax the rich off this whole Met Gala appearance, this is nothing more than a game to them. Doesn't matter if people's lives are being destroyed. Doesn't matter if grocery stores are being made bare. Doesn't matter if 1 in 3 women trying to cross over to the border illegally are getting raped. It doesn't matter, right? If all of these people are living under a bridge, it doesn't matter to them. This is a game, a political game to these people. It's a political game to the people at CNN. It's a political game to the people running the country right now. And they don't give a damn about the human suffering that comes as a consequence of that game that they're playing. Morality doesn't factor into anything that they're talking about, to anything that they're doing. They don't care about morality, and they don't care about you. And that is the truth. And if we want society to move back, if we want to shake people, shake ourselves out of apathy, if we want our society to actually give a damn when a person is innocent, and to actually give a damn when somebody is actually guilty, then it starts with this. It starts with you. It starts with informing ourselves, arming ourselves with knowledge. It starts with going out there and finding the facts that they're not going to give you, right? This country, people will say, is a nation of minorities, and that is true. But the first and most important minority of all, the minority that has separated us from any other country that has ever existed, is the minority of the individual conscience. The individual. If you love America, if you want to wake up tomorrow having hope in your heart for the next day, if you want to pass that hope on down to your kids, if you want to be that hope, then everything that goes forwards is on you. It starts with you. And the best way to flip things around is by informing yourself. Again, going out there, getting the facts that that's not being given to you, that's not being presented to you. It's arming yourself with knowledge and arming yourself with the principles that were the foundation for this country. And it's going out there and it's speaking the truth wherever you can, however you can, whenever you can. Maybe it's on a podcast. Maybe it's on social media. Maybe it's amongst your family and your friends or your strangers or your neighbors or at your workplace. I don't know. It's wherever you can do it, you do it. That's something that the people in charge don't want. That's something that they are not counting on. They're not counting on you. So take advantage of that. Do something about it. That's what I got to say on this. The border crisis, it's blowing up. It's been blowing up since January, really. And it's not going to go away. And, maybe we can't, maybe we don't have the power to fix everything, right, until the next election cycle in the grand scheme of things. But we can fix things on a smaller scale. And little victories here and there, they build up into big victories. Well, that's all I got to say on the Del Rio situation. Now, in some more uplifting news, we have some societal updates for you. UFC fighter Conor McGregor, you might remember him as the cocky guy who challenged Floyd Mayweather to a fight not so long ago and got his butt whooped. That guy? Yeah. Well, he was down at Wrigley Field recently, and he proceeded to throw maybe the worst pitch I have ever seen in my life. Here it is.
Former UFC champion Conor McGregor has been taking a lot of L's recently and took another one today in Wrigleyville, throwing out the first pitch. It was not a good one. Actually, it was a really bad one. He fits right in with the Cubs pitching staff right now. Just kidding, Cubby fans.
Throw a baseball. Like what the hell is that? Like what? Like I don't get this, right? like politicians or celebrities, right? They'll go down to these big baseball fields and they'll throw the opening pitch. It's like, if I knew that I was going to throw an opening pitch and be in front of cameras and thousands of people, I would practice at least a little bit, like in the days leading up to that shit, at least to the point that I could like get it within 3 feet of the strike zone. Like if I could throw a baseball within 3 feet of the strike zone in an opening pitch, I'd feel pretty good about myself. I'm not a pitcher, but like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, let's just look at it again. Like what the hell? Is he like trying to get the attention of the nacho guy in the stands? Like, what the hell is this? God, oh my God. Like, how are you a professional athlete and you are that bad at throwing a baseball? I get it's not the same sport, like, but my God, what the hell? Yeah, so that happened. I guess that's a thing. In other news, though, Pulp Fiction actress Uma Thurman came out recently and detailed an abortion she had in her late teens. Now, she, in this op-ed interview that she gave talking about this thing, she talks about the emotional anguish and the mental turmoil that she had as a result of this pregnancy. Some real suffering, and I have some real sympathy for her over that. But I guess it's like how she starts off this whole interview that just makes me take a pause. And here she says, "In my late teens, I was accidentally impregnated by a much older man." Accidentally impregnated. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Like we hear this all the time. How do you accidentally get impregnated? What, like you just step out of the shower and what, dry yourself off using an area rug from a Motel 6 and then bam, you're just accidentally pregnant? It's like, no. Well, like, what the frick is this? There's just no accountability. No accountability. Here she is, a woman in her 50s, right? She's got a kid now. She's got a daughter. And still just no accountability whatsoever. Oh, it's just so unbelievably aggravating, right? But she goes on to say, "There is so much pain in this story. It has been my darkest secret until now." And like I said, she details her emotional anguish and mental turmoil as a result of this abortion. But ultimately, she goes on to defend the abortion anyways and bash the Texas abortion law that just came up. I mean, like, honest to God, she says, "Choosing not to keep that early pregnancy allowed me to grow up and become the mother I wanted and needed to be." So, killing her first baby allowed her to become a better mother, the mother that she wanted to be. Okay, well, let's take a look at her child, right? Maya Thurman Hawk. You might remember her from Stranger Things Season 3. She was actually pretty good in that. Here's her daughter, Maya.
Maya. Yeah? Hi. Welcome, this is the life of a movie star. If you were ever wondering what it was like to be famous, this is it. It's very glamorous and sexy, and everybody wants to sleep with you and kiss you all the time, and people give you lots of free food and free clothes and free alcohol, and basically I just never pay for a thing myself. You want Periscope? I'm drunk right now.
Well, it looks like she's doing a bang-up job at being a mother thus far. You know, I can gladly agree with her that aborting that baby made her a much better mother than she would have been otherwise. Now, in keeping up with a lack of accountability, President Biden has pissed off some White House reporters this week. White House reporters, mind you, that have now filed a formal complaint against the president for not answering questions. Now, apparently, Biden held a meeting at the Oval Office with Gary Busey, or as some of you know him, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson. Now, according to CBS news correspondent Ed O'Keefe, White House aides shouted down U.S. attempts to ask questions. White House aides shouted down U.S. attempts to ask questions. You know, that's interesting when you take into account the article put out by Politico not too long ago about people in the Biden administration who are just riddled with anxiety and fear anytime that guy opens up his mouth at a press conference. Again, this is according to Politico, mind you, not a right-leaning news source. Politico, which says, They're filled with anxiety that he's going to take questions from the press and veer off the West Wing's carefully orchestrated messaging. Quote, I know people who habitually don't watch it live, referring to his press conferences, for that reason, said a current White House official. This comes from courtesy of Jen Psaki. A lot of times we say, don't take questions. Jen Psaki said that to David Axelrod in his podcast earlier this year. And now White House aides are actually shouting down reporters attempting to ask questions. They are so afraid that this guy is going to open his mouth and say something that they need to shout over reporters to stop them from asking questions. You know, they can only keep up the charade for so long, okay? Eventually it's going to reach a boiling point. I give it... I give it a year. I think within 1 year, something is going to happen with Biden that they're just not going to be able to hide, because there is no denying that that guy is completely out of his damn mind. And when I say that, I don't mean that he's clinically insane. I think he's a bastard, but I think he is obviously suffering from dementia. I mean, we all saw his town hall speech.
You got the vaccination? Yeah. Are you okay? I mean, you seem, no, it works. Or or the mom and dad, or the neighbor, or when you go to church, or when you're, no, I really mean it. There are trusted interlocutors. Think of the people. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon, or whatever, something, or whether those aliens are here or not. Who are the people they talk to beyond the kids who love talking about it?
And the town hall speech, why does that sound familiar?
I can't read these words. They're not in the right order. It's good. I think you might be dyslexic, bro. I'm not reading this. I'm gonna... No, please,
I think you might be dyslexic.
Read the script once. Okay, you want me to read the script?
Yes.
All right.
And action.
I'll read the words you wrote. Hello, fellow American. This you should vote. Me. I leave power. Good. Thank you. Thank you. If you vote me, I'm hot. What? Taxes. They'll be lower. Son. The Democratic vote for me is right thing to do, Philadelphia. So do. This doesn't make any sense.
God, I mean, when Always Sunny in Philadelphia has become real life in the White House, you know we're in some serious shit. And we are in some serious shit. There's no denying that these are dark times that we're in, hands down. And honestly, it's understandable to worry, but I suppose it's because we're in dark times that I wanted to end today's episode with a little bit of light reading. Now, one of my personal heroes and somebody who I greatly admire was the iconic actor Charlton Heston. Now, he was in some of the best movies that I've ever seen. Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, the original Planet of the Apes. And he was also a man with a rather interesting history. He fought in World War II. He marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. on Washington when he was president of the Screen Actors Guild. And this was during a time in Hollywood where it wasn't exactly popular to align yourself with the civil rights movement. He did that. He marched with Martin Luther King Jr. And he also went on to become the president of the National Rifles Association. He was a very powerful speaker. He was a great speaker. He had a great voice. And he just did a fantastic job encapsulating the things that make America great, speaking up for America, and cutting against the trash coming out from Hollywood. A guy who's extraordinarily successful in Hollywood, who used his platform to stand up for the things that matter, and he did this routinely. Well, in his autobiography, In the Arena, he closes it with a very short speech that's basically a combination of famous quotes from famous Americans spanning over two centuries, really. And he writes about that, and he says it's like, though many of these great Americans that he's quoting here never actually met in real life, it's like they're speaking out in one voice together. It's in this speech that he says, I have a dream. I refuse to accept the end of man. I believe he will endure. He will prevail. Man is immortal, not because he alone among God's creatures has a voice, but because he has a soul, a spirit, capable of compassion, sacrifice, and endurance. Among America and Americans, this is particularly true. It is a fabulous country, the only fabulous country, where miracles not only happen, they happen all the time. As a nation, we have perhaps, uniquely, a special willingness of the heart, a blind fearlessness, a simple yearning for righteousness and justice that ignited in our revolution a flame of freedom that cannot be stamped out. That is the living, fruitful spirit of this country. These are the times that try men's souls. The sunshine patriot and the summer soldier will, in this crisis, shrink from service. But he who stands and bears it now will earn the thanks of man and woman, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us finish the work we are in. Let us bind up the nation's wounds. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. You know, like Charlton Heston, I too refuse to accept the end of man. Because that flame of freedom he's talking about, that exists. And it beats in the heart of every God-fearing man, American man and woman out there. It's that flame that pushes us to get out of bed every morning and to go and to not just live for today, but to work for tomorrow. To not just hold on to hope, but to be the hope. And to ensure that the generation that comes after us, that they're handed down something that's actually worth holding on to. It's that fire that helps us to stand back up when we get knocked down and to stand our ground when we're attacked. It's that flame of freedom that the people that we're up against right now just don't have. They don't have it. And that's why they're going to lose. That's why they have to lose. And that's why it's on us to make sure that that flame is carried on. And that's what gives me hope. I refuse to accept the end of man. And I refuse to accept the end of America. And I refuse to accept the America being pushed down on us right now. One that has no use for God, that has no use for the principles that founded this country, that has no use for the flame of freedom, that has kept this country alive and kept it great for nearly 250 years. I refuse to accept that America. And I refuse to give up. So that being said, I am Joshua Stanko, wrapping up another episode of the Woke is Broke podcast. We thank you for tuning in. We look forward to catching you next time. But until then, stay safe, stay informed. Catch you next time. Oh, hello again. You know, if you like today's episode, please support us on Venmo or PayPal. The Woke is Broke podcast is a crowd-funded operation, and as such, we promise never to abscond with your money. Unless we're absolutely sure that we can get away with it. Also, buy my book! Available on the Amazon Marketplace. Have a good one.